This is a brick. It's an old one. It's used. I found it in my yard. But it's not just any brick. This is what they call a barnstable brick. And it was made 150, 160 years ago on Cape Cod. As far as bricks go, this is a luxury brick. I'm not talking about supreme new money jargon. This is an old money, quiet luxury brick. It's got a story. It's got pedigree. People who know. So I think we need to celebrate this brick. I started thinking about luxury after last week's video and what luxury even means in this day and age. I think when you make things with your hands, you tend to get pushed towards that idea of luxury because, especially these days, you're doing something that is kind of a lost art. Now, granted, leatherwork has really found a lot of popularity in the last few years, and there are lots of great leatherworkers out there. I think we look to the most polished pieces as luxury. We don't look to the standard handmade piece as luxury. Making that Louis Vuitton video last week about how they sent private investigators to my house, it really got me thinking about what modern luxury is to most people. Now, I can tell you what the market thinks modern luxury is. Modern luxury brands aren't even sold to the wealthy and the elite anymore. The target for a brand like Louis Vuitton is middle class to upper middle class. Luxury brands are mostly bought by middle class people to look rich. Rich people aren't the ones buying Louis Vuitton and Gucci and that sort of thing. Partially, how do you think they stay rich? They don't spend their money. And so as a concept that's sort of traditionally associated with exclusivity and opulence and status, I feel like luxury is going through a pretty significant transformation. With maybe it's generational, maybe it's just how I feel personally, and I'm shouting at the clouds. There's a basketball player who played for the Celtics named Brian Scalabrine, and he said something very famously a few years back where he wasn't, I think he was the last place scorer on the team in the league, something like that. I don't really know. It was enough of a footnote in his career that people kind of gave him flack for it. And once he had retired, he said something online about how he scored a bunch of points in his rec league. And people said, well, of course you did. You had to go down to a rec league to start scoring points because when you were in the NBA, you didn't. And he said back, I'm closer to LeBron than you'll ever be to me. And what he meant by that was, even if you're the last player in the NBA, you have to be such an elite athlete that you are so much better than the average person who is not a professional. He would go on to have a little TV show where people would challenge him, amateurs, and he would just absolutely steamroll everybody. I think even the producers, they challenged him to a 3-on-1 and he beat them. I don't think they could score on him at all. And you realized he was right. But even if you're the last place in the NBA, you are so much better than the best player at a YMCA. It's out of control. And I think that knowing how to do leather work is, at least for me, when I think about these luxury brands in the context of the conversation from last week's video, I think that's kind of the same thing. If you know, it doesn't matter how the fit and finish is. If you know how to hand sew something and make it out of a full grain leather, you're going to get the quality of a luxury good. It's going to last just as long as it's going to do exactly what it does. It might not look as nice. It might not have the luxury branding, but from a performance standpoint, if you learn how to properly make something and design pieces that function well, it's going to last the same amount of time, if not longer. And so I think once we get that out of the way, maybe luxury isn't about the quality. I mean, it can't be about the quality. People have Louis Vuitton bags repaired all the time. That canvas doesn't really last that long, especially the way they make them. They don't reinforce corners on a lot of stuff. I noticed that. So the canvas rips. So then what is luxury if it's not the physical piece itself all the time? Sometimes, yes. Now, here's where I think the luxury is. I have the luxury of learning and having the time to learn how to put a jet black edge onto natural veg tan. Is it difficult? It's not that hard. But I have the luxury of time to do that. I have set that time aside. For me personally, I'm a professional. You know, this is what I do for a job. So it's part of my job is to get to learn how to do this, and I absolutely love it. And I think that anybody that makes anything and makes the time to make anything celebrates the luxury of being able to make these things on your own. Specifically, being able to learn how to make these things on your own. Because having that time is the biggest luxury, in my opinion. You can disagree with me. I think luxury, by and far, is totally subjective, right? I mean, I don't think that's the only thing that luxury is. However, I think being able to look at a brick and say, you know what, that brick is a really cool story. It tells the story of this house. It does have history, and I could tell you a 20-minute story about the brick company, but I'm not going to do that. You know, I want that to be celebrated and turned into something that I can use every day. And the luxury of it is not only do I get to look at this historical piece and be reminded of what the area that I live in is and used to be, but I have the time and the skill set aside to be able to, however ridiculously over the top this is, I can celebrate my craft in doing so. I can skive, I can use my leather cording as an insert to the handle. And I'll tell you what Louis Vuitton uses? Plastic tubes. So we're definitely making this a higher quality than something like a Louis Vuitton. Is luxury a quality thing? Is luxury an exclusive thing for the wealthy elite? I don't think so. I think that luxury, to me, is more about experience, more about craft is a big specific thing to me. But it's more about the journey of making something and being able to make something by myself and knowing that the quality is up to par with some of the bigger names. And I think it's kind of sad because I think ultimately what it's boiling down to is luxury is having time to do things, which it kind of is. I think there's a reason why you don't see a lot of high craft. And high craft has been put at a premium these days because everything's so automated that the human element of life is being commoditized and made into luxury. I know in doing a little research about this before I started rambling on about things like a madman, people I'm a millennial, Gen Z, people are starting to consider travel and experience as luxury. So I'm not alone in feeling this. It's not about showing off logos anymore. And so as I kind of come to a close on this project, I don't feel justified. And I mean, confirmation bias is real. But I do feel comforted knowing that other people feel the same way that I do. And in that, we're going to put these last rivets on this piece. And we're going to use this beautiful machine and attach them. And what I made is not the world's most ridiculous non-functioning purse, but it's simply a doorstop. That's it. And I get to look down every day and be surrounded by something that's seemingly mundane, but this one's absolutely beautiful, and I'll get to look at it for years and years and years in the house that it came from. What's your definition of luxury? I'd love to know. I'd love to hear what other people think about this. Are you going to be wrapping a brick anytime soon? Are you going to be wrapping a rock? We did that a few years ago. That was pretty fun. Let me know in the comments below, and I thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.